This is my Shendrones Thicc, and while I'm absolutely in love with it and these motors, I need to change them out. This prototype Hobbywing 2406 motor right here on the front right has died, and it just is causing these vibrations that I can't figure out how to tune out. And so I'm going to swap everything over to a new set of motors that I actually have enough of. My hope is that the last bit of changes that I need to do to this are change these motors, and then it's going to be flying freaking on rails. I'm so excited. Not only am I planning on switching out the motors, but I've also got some 8-inch props to try on the bottom set of motors, which will hopefully give me an extra bit of power from the bottom motors, which are losing a little bit of efficiency because they're going through the downwash of the top motors. So if I increase the surface area of the bottom motors, keep the top ones the same, and swap everything out to these more powerful motors, I think we're gonna have a much better experience for the Shendrones Thicc than we've had in the past. Let's dive into it, swap out these motors, and see what this thing can do with the new motors and new prop configuration. Okay, first off, let's get rid of this extra power lead. This is for the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. You can set that aside. And then we'll take off the top plate with the anti-vibration dampening pad, and then we'll take off all the props. To get the top plate off, I'm gonna use my WOW stick. It's this awesome little electric screwdriver. You can get it for like 40 or 50 bucks. I think Get FPV sells it, Amazon sells it. This thing is a lifesaver. It even comes with this little magnetic pad so you can keep your screws from so you can not lose your screws, not have a screw loose. Yeah. Okay, we got our top plate off. Now we're gonna take off all the props because we gotta swap all the motors. Okay, all of our props are off, and now it's time to start taking off the motors. I'm not looking forward to this because with 8 motors on individual ESCs, that means I have to swap 3 wires per motor times 8. That's 24 wires. 3 times 8? 16, 24, yeah, 24 wires that I've got to swap just to get new motors on here. And then in addition to that, like these motor mounts are kind of a bit of a pain. You know, it's just going to be a long process, so let's get to it. I want to do this without taking off all of my electrical tape. Looks like we might have to, just to keep it easy. All right, we'll desolder this first motor, flip it over, and we're just going to do these one at a time. I think by doing it one at a time, it'll make a little bit more sense. We can just not try to worry about doing too much at the same time and just do each segment in a chunk and not get overstressed out by how many of these things we have to do. All right, so to get these motor mounts off, there's a nut here and a screw here. So we just gotta break the screw loose. And then our WOW stick isn't powerful enough. Come on, buddy. And then one on the inside, and voila, our motor is off. Only slightly a pain. And then we can take off all of the screws. Boom, 2 motors out, got our mount. Now we're gonna swap these out with the new Brother Hobby motors that we've got that are gonna be a little bit wider of a stator and a little bit more powerful, I think. So you can see that between these 2 motors, this one's a little bit wider. It's a 2806, where this is a 2408. So it's a little bit more pancakey and a little bit shorter of a stator. But generally, we find that that has a little bit more torque. Well, it's not as good at high speed, I think. And in the times that I've flown this motor, it's outperformed the Hobbywing motor a little bit, even though there's a similar amount of surface area of the stator. This one just seems to do better with bigger props in general, and so I'm really excited to get these ones on the drone so that I can have a little bit more power and a little bit more control over flying my big cinema cameras.
At this point in the process, I was pretty tired of working. I had actually been on the contract all day, got home and started trying to film this video, and the motor mounts were just not suiting me. I have a prototype version of the Thicc that I can't get the screws through to hold the actual motor mount on for the motor that's going on the top here. And you can pretty much just see me just give up and be done. And right there, yep, I'm done for the night. That's it. I'm out. I can't do it anymore. So at this point I go message Andy Shen and I'm like, hey, I need some new arms. I have the wrong ones.
And magical shirt change. I decided to go to bed last night. I was so tired from working already, so I just decided to come back for another day. Now, what I realized last night is that because these motors are so wide, I can't actually get the screw through without putting the motor on first. It's kind of this weird catch-22. So what I'm gonna do is, because I only have one bad Hobbywing motor, I'm gonna swap out all of the top motors, I believe. It might end up being the bottom motors, I don't really know for sure, for the new Brother Hobby motors, and then leave the bottom ones with the original Hobbywing ones, which all of the ones except for this one really are okay. I just don't have another one to swap. So, and then Andy from Shendrones is sending me the replacement arms that actually support the wider stator. So that's just a miscommunication on my part. Totally forgot that I needed to get the new arms. I didn't end up needing them before, so I just finally needed them now. So we're gonna swap everything else later, but for now we're just gonna work on the top motors. So now before we put this motor in, we have to put this screw through, then put the motor on, actually both sides of screws, so that they stay in place. Then we put this motor on, and now we'll have the ability to get those screws on. Gonna end up being a bit of a pain, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So now that motor's on. Then we're gonna take our Hobbywing motor and put it on the bottom, on this plate. It should go like that. And now this motor should mount up on top. So I guess we're gonna put the Brother Hobby motors on the bottom, my bad. Either way, actually I think I'd rather have these motors on the bottom because I can put those 8-inch props on the bottom so that they're extending further than the 7-inch, and they're gonna have a little bit more power because they've got that wider stator. We got one set done, big motor on the bottom, smaller motor on top. 4 more to go. But here's one of our 8-inch props, and then the 7-inch prop that's gonna go with it. So on the bottom, we'll have this big old monster of a prop, and then on top, a slightly smaller one. But now the bottom one extends out past where the bottom one does, or the top one does, so that there's a little bit more thrust coming out of the bottom one, because normally, you know, when this one is blowing air over top of this one, these are not spinning the right way, so ignore that. The bottom motor is losing efficiency, but because this has an extra inch in diameter, it's gonna have a little bit extra thrust because it's gonna get a little bit of clean air on the outsides. So hopefully each motor is producing roughly the same amount of thrust because of the added surface area, but it's not gonna lose too much efficiency because it's pushing less air, it's like having to grab less air. So hopefully they're producing about the same amount of thrust at around the same amount of efficiency. That's the theory, so we'll see what happens. Okay, we've got all 4 of the new Brother Hobby motors added on. So now we gotta plug it into the computer and check to make sure that everything is spinning in the right direction. We're gonna do that using Betaflight and BL Heli and switch them around if we need to. But I think they might all be good because everything I took off was like in a line right down the middle, so it should be pretty straightforward. But yeah, let's get the computer rolling and make sure that we got everything rotating the right way. Okay, so before we proceed, let's go ahead and use this smoke stopper to test to make sure that we didn't crosswire anything. You can get one of these from, I believe I got mine from Pyro Drone, but it's a great little device. It's got XT30 sides and XT60s, and it will prevent you from blowing up your machine on the workbench like I so often do. Okay, so we'll plug the smoke stopper into the drone. and plug the battery into the drone. It's a very good sign. Plug this into Betaflight. Okay, we'll go to the motors tab, plug in the drone, accept that it's dangerous. We'll spin everything up. Okay, so all the top motors should be spinning props out, and all of the bottom motors should be spinning props in. So top motors 2, 1 is good, 2 is good, spinning that way, 3 is good, spinning that way, 4 is good, spinning that way. Okay, now for the bottom ones, 1 is good, it's spinning this way, 2, no, 1 is bad. So 1 is spinning the wrong way. Should write this down. So this is motor 5, I believe. Yeah, 5 is spinning the wrong way. 2 is spinning, or 6 is spinning the correct way. 7 is spinning the correct way. And 8 is spinning the wrong way. So I need to switch 4 and 5, or 8 and 5. I need to switch motors 8 and 5 because they're both spinning the same direction as their motor above. So 8 and 5 need to switch. Get rid of Betaflight. Now connect. There we go. Plug this in. Now we should wait and click check, and we should get all 8 motors. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. Right click on 5. Or set it to normal orientation. Right setup. Now we're going to switch to 8 by right clicking. Normal rotation, right setup. Okay, now every motor should be spinning the correct direction, and we're going to go double check that before we ever try to fly it. Motors, understand. Throttle up. Okay, so 1 is good, 2 is good, 3 is good, 4 is good, 5 is now good, 6 is good, 7 is good, 8 is good. So now all of our motors are rotating the correct direction. Each motor is spinning the opposite of the motor like above or below it, and they're all operating in the way that Betaflight expects. So that is pretty cool. I'm really excited to get this flying on 8-inch and 7-inch props. Let's button up the top plate, save this all out, and get it up in the air. While I've got this open, I'll show you how I've got my build configured. So up front, you've got the DJI air unit, you've got the full-size air unit with a Polulu here. I believe it's, I think I put a 12-volt Polulu in there, and that just supplies clean power for the air unit off of the 6-cell battery. Since the air unit doesn't support 6-cell, unfortunately, out of the box, I've got to step down that voltage, and this regulator does a good job of it. The flight controller that I'm using is the Lumineer Lux F7, which happens to have 8 motor inputs, and that's the only way that I can run this. I have to have 8 separate motor inputs to be able to run all 8 motors. That's a question a lot of people ask me about this build. And they just put out a new version that has a DJI air unit plug in it, which would be super convenient, and presumably also has a regulator so that you can plug it in without having the need of the Polulu. So maybe next round I'm going to get one of those so I can plug the air unit straight in. And then it's kind of hard to see, but I have 2 separate power distribution boards down here that are wired together to the XT60 out back. And what that is doing is just spreading out where I have to wire the connections to, because I am using individual ESCs. These are LS40 Slim Speedix ESCs. I really like them. They have the addressable LED on them. Well, I guess not addressable, but you can change the color of it in Betaflight. So I have mine set to red and greens because I thought that was a cool idea. Then there's a huge back right here, a BEC. That is a 12-volt regulator as well, and that is for powering just my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera that I run on top of this drone. Then again, I've got these Hobbywing 2408 1300 kV motors on top. Brother Hobby 2806.5 1300 kV motors on bottom. I'm going to put 8-inch props on the bottom, 7-inch props up top, and this thing is going to be an absolute beast. So let's get this top plate back on, strap up the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema. Actually, maybe let's do a test flight without the camera, then put it on later. So let's get this top plate back on. I bought all new props for this thing so that these can be as fresh as possible. Let's see. Oh, baby, that looks nasty. Those look so good. I am really excited about this. I can't wait to get all of the Brother Hobby motors on there, but for now, I am so stoked. Let's get this thing charged up and get it in the air. I gotta know how it flies. Sometimes I amaze even myself with my dumb ideas. Just want you guys to be able to see what this is really like. All right, let's get this test flown. These bigger props are so low into the ground that I need that piece of plywood in order for the props to clear. Here goes nothing. Something is definitely not behaving right. Hey, quiet, dude. It kind of seems like it's still that front right, so maybe it was the ESC that was the problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think before I do anything else, I'm going to swap that front right ESC because something still feels really weird and I don't like it. I don't think it has anything to do with the motor, so I think that's the next best thing, is to just swap that ESC, see what happens. I should say the only real reason that I'm choosing to swap this particular ESC is because I saw that motor, I guess 2, the front right top, or front left top motor, freewheel a little bit longer than some of the other ones, so like it just didn't do exactly what the others were doing. So that's making me think that there was something wrong with it. So I'm just going to try swapping it out and see if that provides any clarity. I don't know. So that's where we're starting. I would really be appreciative if this thing just worked this time. Just magically, please work. Let's see if it does it without the weight of the Insta360 on there. But I mean, even if it doesn't, I'm going to put a bigger camera on it anyway, so what's the point?
Essentially what's happening is that the front end is dropping, so like as I hit the throttle bump, like it flies fine until you push the throttle, and then it kind of like drops the nose and then wiggles a little bit like it's a tune issue, but it's got to be a hardware problem. It's really frustrating, that's for sure.
I'm just trying to get that, whatever motor it is that's not working, to heat up so I can at least tell and feel like which motor it is so that I can swap that out, because this is super annoying. I got no idea.
And that's pretty much where I had to leave it. I tried another tune that just didn't work at all. It caused a lot of really crazy oscillations, so we gave up for a bit, just taking a break, step away from the project. Especially when it's frustrating you that much, it's really important to just get away, don't try to stress about it too much, and go have some fun. So me and Winston went out with his Low C8E dune buggy, and we tested out the GoPro 9. Video incoming, pay attention, get excited. But this is footage straight out of the camera with a little bit of color grade over top of it that is 1080 120 with Hypersmooth 3.0 boost on. There's no real steady going on here. This is just straight out of the body of the camera, and it looks phenomenal. So I wanted to show you a little bit of that as we take a break from the Thicc, and then we're going to come back shortly for the conclusion of this project.
caution. Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like I'm Bigfoot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Dressed too sharp with the prize. White girls, better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution.
Alright, I don't know what this thing is doing. I'm not going to touch my sticks, it's just going to arm. Literally didn't touch anything. I don't know what it's doing. I'm at wit's end on it. Like I'm ready to just scrap it. Frick! Does not fly at all. Never touch the sticks. That is really frustrating. Well, I guess I'll let you know when I figure it out.